Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Just Roll It Already. I am your host, Daryl.
I'm your other host, Jeremiah.
And I'm Kyle.
And I'm John.
Okay, today we are doing our game talk, but this one's a little bit different. This is the very first on-the-mic grilling of incredibly dramatic backstory, and we are going to admit who it is, and I will give you the ultimate spoiler. There is 1 in 3 chance, and you'll probably guess it right. It's Kylie.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to sit here and grill him. We are going to make him cry if we can, and we are going to make him on the spot and try to defend himself in a very feeble manner. So all of you, prepare to take your swords, clubs, knives, and guns, because this is going to be fun.
Now, the M. Night Shyamalan twist is that I'm actually a dramatic backstory. Jeremiah, me. No.
It's more of a Hitchcock twist, not really. It's like one of these men on this train killed a man.
It
was actually the other one.
It feels more like a Mel Gibson twist to me, but okay.
Anyways, so, continuing on.
Okay. Let's see who wants to be first up to crack at him.
Well, first of all, I just want to say...
Nope, you can't start defending yourself. You gotta respond to questions.
Or what, you do self-medication?
We are going to attack you one by one, if not all at the same time, Kylie, because your incredibly dramatic backstories cannot save you now.
Kylie, why do you make incredibly dramatic backstory?
Should we give some examples to our viewers about...
Yes.
Yes. Let's bring him out.
Let's bring out Quick the Bard.
But he was the least... He didn't have any backstory.
No, but his personality was like very forged by his backstory, apparently.
Yeah, everything was backstory. Oh, no.
What?
Okay, my first gripe about this character, I have to say, is the fact that he was so spontaneous and erratic that he was his own dramatic backstory. He was just so annoying and so obnoxious. Everyone just wanted to murder him, including me, and I'm the most temperate guy.
Even I kind of wanted to kill him.
All right, Kylie, you sealed a man in a barrel and then pushed him into a river. You sealed another player in a barrel and pushed him into a...
not NPC, PC.
Yeah, PC.
Yeah,
a fellow human you put in a barrel and then put into a river.
And
hey, there at least needs to be a little bit of backstory to that one. It wasn't just on the...
We covered that in a past episode.
We covered how he started
And then we also covered that one.
You're gonna die.
Yeah, and we also covered the fact that your pacifist werewolf suddenly became a murderous killer and started attacking everybody.
Oh, wait, yes, that from that
also,
one.
how your first character in my Avalon campaign suddenly developed a racism for something he'd never seen before.
And then you murdered everyone where I proceeded to put down the smackdown on you.
We had to just execute you because you became like a rabid
Yeah.
dog. We had to execute you.
Yeah.
Summarily, commissar execution.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, but we're throwing all this hate out. How are you going to protect yourself right now?
Well, in my defense, I think that...
And that's enough defense right there. On to the next one. Okay.
Oh, what are you, a lawyer?
Yes.
We got a lawyer right here.
Yeah, I'm a lawyer right here.
Oh, well, yeah, we got a lawyer right here.
It's a
Okay.
hanged jury.
Yes. This is
This is a lynch mob.
Yeah, pretty much. That's what they say. This is the most rigged judicial system I've ever seen.
Okay, anyway, continue with your defense of yourself.
Okay, well, I think that everybody should have at least a good bit of a backstory. I hate it when people just go off the seat of their pants for their characters. I mean, I don't mind people coming out with backstories as they go, but I think you should give the DM at least something to work with to work into a game.
2 paragraphs, Charlie. Backstory, 2 paragraphs is fantastic.
Yeah, it's like 6 sentences.
You write a book.
And then when I was 13, I was brutally raped by orcs. Wow, really? You're going to go
That's
that
his
down?
backstory.
And it was anal rape. What?
But if I did do that, that would be like a 2-paragraph thing. I'd be done. You talk about here's my kindergarten, here's first grade, second grade, here's primary school, elementary school. This is when I had that experience in summer camp with my friend Bobby. I thought would actually go further, but it didn't. And then I met this half orc, and I thought I could trust him. And then I had candy. It was great. I met a pony. It just goes on. It's dude.
Yeah, I mean, even your incredibly dramatic backstories continue on into your game mastering, because you went on to me once with an 2 hour and a half discussion and description of an Eclipse Phase game that you ran over the summer. It was a lot of details, and I have to say it sounded like a really great game, but about a half hour, and I was like, is it gonna end yet? Because it felt like I just watched the movie.
You watched the whole Lord of the Rings trilogy in one sitting. That's
more like twice.
Extended.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What was I say? Felt a lot longer than that.
I love story.
Right.
I love a lot of story.
I like story too. And when I make a character, I'm like, okay, so I have this character concept. This is what he did prior to being level 1, whatever. As in, I was in a war for 50 years. I was raised as a gnome. Things of that nature.
You know what I like in story? Exposition. Yeah,
Yeah.
it
Exposition is good.
cuts out a lot of stuff. There we go. Like, it's assumed that we know what's happening.
Exposition.
Oh, but John, on your comment, John, I think that you give kind of the meat, but you don't give everything else that's needed. You tell what the basis of what your character did or what he does, and then you don't really go into any details that a DM could use.
But does it matter? Did I do anything of note? That's the question. Technically, because you're now a level 1 hero, now you're starting to do things of note. Technically, before that, you were just some guy.
But at the same time,
you aren't necessarily noteworthy prior to level 1.
You are a level 1 commoner, actually. Before you take a level fighter, you are technically like a level 1 and commoner.
Yeah,
NPC.
you're human. Your class is human.
Wow, it's 2.0 like D&D. Holy
Yeah.
crap, yeah.
but even before you started gaining levels, or in a game where you start off level 4 or something like that, or further into more
So-
experience, whatever the correlation converting thing is, even if you do, your character had to have done some noteworthy things before he became a person, so to
So
say.
then you start your adventure that much earlier in their life.
Well, you also do a lot of like over the top, like extreme things that should normally cause a person to go insane.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, you watch your family get murdered right before your eyes. Okay, now that will possibly mentally
that's brutal.
scar
That is
somebody
brutal.
for a very long time.
Wait, which one was that?
Why-
I'm just using an example. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah. Why can't you
all
just be
your-
like a farm boy? Why
Yeah,
can't you be
you
like,
can
I grew up on a farm?
You grew up as a farm boy and you learned, hey, I want to learn to grab a sword, and you practiced like every single day at night when your father wasn't looking. And then
2
you
paragraphs? Perfect.
Yeah,
Done.
and now you go forth and you kill goblins. But then also on top of that, excuse my voice, everybody. I'm recovering from a sickness, but excuse me. All right,
Some bard
every-
cursed him.
yeah, some bard. Like, I tried to
Jeremiah.
do steel voice and made my save, but it wasn't high enough. But
Deathly performance. It's bad.
yeah,
Anyways.
whatever. But the whole thing is every backstory I've heard from you recently: brother, mother, sister, cousin, aunt, uncle, cousin twice removed.
It's like the Punisher. It's like the Punisher. Every story you have is
one
the
of those,
Punisher.
and one of those guys are dead, and you're out for a vengeance, or your
Revengeance.
best friend dies. It's like, yeah, it's a different thing, but you file the serial number off, and then you just slap a new name on it.
All your characters are Punisher, the Revengeance, the
Electric
fourth.
Boogaloo.
Okay, okay.
And Spider-Man.
That right there deserves a little bit of a backstory. 2 paragraphs at the most.
You start now. I'm counting.
Okay. Basically, in previous groups, whenever I would create a happy backstory, family members, they like, for instance, a little sister one of my characters had, she was brutally raped and murdered in a town, and then I found her like 2 hours afterward. Things like that.
So you're killing them off so they don't get raped. It's like, I just imagine you over their bodies, like, while they're sitting like, it's for your own good. Like, as you're just like, pillow on their face, it's like, it's for your own good. Like,
This will happen eventually.
God, that's
Saving you from yourself.
That's metal for one, but it's also brutal.
But no. On top of it, it's creating enemies that your character has or enemies or friends that a DM can use in the future. For instance, you used in the one where I was a werewolf, not the World of Darkness, but the Pathfinder where I was a werewolf. You used one of the people that murdered my younger brother, well, my older brother, and threw me into slavery. You used him as a way to get me into the game.
Now, Kylie, you gotta understand. Was it that he had to use it, or did he maybe have another means to bring you in? That's the question. You don't necessarily want to build something, because if you leave it open, you're more flexible to just assume what the DM says. Like me,
Yeah.
I'm just like, yeah.
And that story, I killed him off immediately because I knew what was going on. I was like, nope, he gotta die.
That's why I have
Not
2
quite
paragraphs.
immediately. It was actually more like 6 or 7 sessions into it. I was finally taken back by him, and I got the chance for revenge. But then a whole other extremely dramatic backstory.
It's too dramatic for this
Now,
podcast.
I was gonna say, now,
not
not to
drawn
say
enough.
dramatic backstories aren't bad, okay? Now, you could totally, like, I made a character, like, oh yeah, my whole family was, like, butchered in front of my eyes, and I grew up to fight crime, and I am Batman. Now, sure, okay, that's fine.
You're not Mr. Buttersworth.
You can do that. No, you can do that. But have that every other character, or, like, put some vanilla between the chilies. Like,
You really gotta have. I'd say argued. You gotta have more. Plain bread and butter. You don't necessarily need the whole sandwich, because the story that you're building from that is literally you start with a piece of bread, you put some mayonnaise on it, and then you start building your sandwich. And then when the entire campaign closes, you put whatever sauce on it, and then you close it with bread, so that you have continuity between this giant exposition sandwich that is your life story of your
It's a
character.
book. It's a book sandwich.
And then you eat it and you crap it out later to forget it forever.
Well,
Ever to look at
no,
it again.
I put my sandwiches on the mantelpiece.
They're works of art.
Yeah,
It
But
works hard.
That explains the smell in your house.
they're works of art. But anyways, like, all right, I would say like every now and again, sure, play a dramatic character, that's fine. But like, have like the farm boy every now and again who's like, I grew up on a farm. That's cool. What else did you do? Was your family murdered by werewolves? Did you fight like ninja yetis in the mountains? Like, no, I tilled hay. Okay, I shucked corn. That's cool.
I drove a cart.
I peeled shrimp down in
No.
South Carolina.
And then I went to the Heroes Guild and I picked up a sword and I said, "Can I use this?" And they're sure. And now I'm here.
But
Works.
Make a dramatic backstory by not having one. Have the most plain story ever.
Yeah, think
you
about
will
Bodrick
set.
the Rad. Does anyone remember Bodrick the Rad? Yes, Bodrick the Rad was literally just a fighter. His objective was to get drunk and get laid. All he did was cleave. That's his thing. That was his shtick. He was dramatic in the sense that he just cleaved.
Yeah, but we're talking about now. How can you take something that maybe you should let it evolve more organically, like saying, okay, maybe the family members got drawn in because of your own stupid mistake and they paid for it, and now you got to set it right, or kill the guy who just murdered your entire family out of revenge because you thought you were being funny and got cocky.
Because really, when you make a character, you're only making one character. You can't start making other characters like your family. You got to avoid that because that's up to the DM's discretion.
You're adding like story continuity that the storyteller
It's
didn't.
like, well, I didn't expect you to have there's that whole family, and then it's not necessarily, a family that I have in the game, and there may inconsistencies.
A lot of times, you know why they like raped and murdered your characters? Like punishment. Like, how dare you
Be so
have the
dramatic.
audacity to add characters to my opus? Ah! Or I was also thinking, are you like psychologically projecting your own like views onto your characters? Like, you're killing your family. Does that say something about you?
maybe.
Okay, now we've already thrown everything out. Kylie, incredibly dramatic backstory. Twig the Bard, whatever the werewolf. Go.
His name is whatever the werewolf.
So defending time again, or
Yeah, defend yourself. We just threw a bunch of stuff at you.
Have
Protect
at
yourself.
ye.
Okay.
Three versus one.
You guys say like you don't like creating new characters for a game. Well, having characters in your backstory for a game. I think as long as I don't dictate their exact personalities, things like that, like, oh, my brother was kind of this disposition of a person, then the DM has even more place to work with. He has somebody that can influence my character towards doing something important instead of people that I just met in a group that for some reason should hold a sway towards my personality, who don't because I just met them.
All right.
It gives a little more room for the DM to work.
You're also kind of, I don't know, you're making an obstacle, because now he can take that character and he makes your like sister suicidally depressed.
Yeah, they're gonna,
Something
like I
like
said,
that.
they're gonna
And then
punish you.
it really messes with your backstory, because now you have this character in your backstory that you must adhere to have been living with. And if he makes them suicidally depressed or whatever, and they like maybe took their own life, and now you gotta deal with, now your character has to come to terms with a death of a sibling, pre and then post, current events. Even though you may have went into it with a completely different attitude as a character, your character may have had a completely different attitude. So you have to avoid making things outside of your own character. You just like, okay, when I make a character, I always ask the DM what would be that equivalent thereof, and I use a character design and I kind of fit them onto the chessboard. I pick a spot on the board to play, and I choose a starting position. I don't, I make this landmass and I put my flag here, and that's where I start. That landmass doesn't exist. Well, it does now. No, I don't do that. But that's kind of the bad side about it, is like, well, now they're going to have a vengeance on you. But not out of just making a character, because that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's something they have to work around now. It's not necessarily adding something that the DM can use. It has to be a workaround.
Well, but at the same time, I can kind of see where you're coming from on that, but each and every individual has a story of their own. Some random NPC you run into, obviously they're going to have best friends, they're going to have enemies, but that's not important because they're just some random NPC you ran into. With a player character, have close friends that aren't really in the game because maybe you come from a different area, or family members who live in the area.
Yeah, but in games that does matter, it's expressed on the sheet.
Yeah.
I.e., Aeon, any White Wolf system has like your contacts, your mentor, your friend, or not your friend,
Sire.
your sire.
Yep.
You have those contacts listed in it. In games like 3.5, it's assumed that you're kind of like the only child, renegade hero sort of thing.
But also, you have to think about this. Your story might not cohere with war. Like, you're like, my family was brutally murdered by werewolves. It was like, well, actually, in my world, werewolves are pacifists.
Well, that's why you go over your story with the DM before you play. I mean, you okay everything. I'm not just going to bring in a story and say, hey, this is everything that happened word for word. I'm going to say, hey, this is what my thoughts. What's your interpretation of it?
Yeah. Well, there's one thing I'm going to have to say that I'm happy about him, and it's not a complete defense. At least he's not Mr. Buttersworth. I'm a mercenary, and my parents are dead.
At least you don't go too simple. You go.
Yeah,
You
but-
have gusto.
Well, he has gusto, but I think the problem we have is that you take it too extreme and too
You
detailed.
crank it to
So
12.
I'm the stuff you waste your money on buying at that fancy restaurant when you can get like 3 or 4 times as much from this
Your-
other place.
your-
And it
Sto-
tastes relatively the same.
as opposed to like the typical dinner
Yeah.
setting, where everyone else is like typical like flatware to a dinner setting, yours is the electric disco fork.
What?
Yeah.
It just starts playing, funk and disco, and it has like strobe lights that come out of it.
Yeah. And it
That's
spins.
your story. It spins. It's an electric fork, and then it runs out of battery in like 2 minutes because
Nobody
Yeah.
cares.
it's people stop caring. It's like, well,
Sure.
you had family. Oh, that's unfortunate.
And
no one asks about each other's family. No one ever does.
When does
Yeah.
it come into context of a
doesn't come
story?
It never comes in context.
Because people are
Almost.
selfish.
Well,
but-
hey, for instance, if my character in Jeremiah's game, back when the city was sacked, say I had family in there, that would have given me full reason to stay and defend that place.
Oh, I have reason to go back and murder everybody in the same game. Mind you.
that would give me-
That's a backstory. It's like,
Well, none of us are high functioning sociopaths like you.
hey, no, I'm not a high functioning sociopath. I'm a completely non-functioning sociopath.
yeah.
Think Desert Punk from
Hey.
the series. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm going to
okay.
become the White Death.
Okay.
I'm going to
Well-
be in the snow, shooting them, and then moving around, make them think they're surrounded, and get like 3,000 kills.
Yeah, but
High score
Someone's getting a nuke.
we're all
a few times.
we love some backstory. We're not letting everyone know listening right now that we hate backstory or we don't want to ever incorporate it. There is such thing as too much. And Kyle, you bring way too much to the table, and it's just all we need to know is your name, a little bit of your history, and kind of a bit of a touch of what makes this character tick. We don't need volumes upon volumes of a novella about your character.
Now, I've played 13 years of RPGs. I used to make like big, expansive stories of characters, but then I got it down to like, you know what? 2 paragraphs, and that's enough for the GM to know my character and to give some story elements, give some flavor to my guy, like, all right, there we go. And then at that, my character sheet plus the 2 paragraphs will speak for itself, and then the story won't be too, I won't like mishmash and like just mud stomp their story. They can just go with it and,
When I have a demeanor, it's whenever I have a character description, it's always their typical demeanor and what color shirt they wear. In essence,
Usually when I make a character, I usually make them like kind of give them up their little bit of an upbringing under like a paragraph.
yeah, you can express that on sheets, like according to skills.
Well, you make people, you give the GM an understanding about what to expect and what not to expect. Don't give them an extreme detail of the murder plan of your father's assassin. Because if your father was assassinated and he's a farmer, well, why was he assassinated? He's a lowly farmer who probably pissed somebody off. But they're not going to send an assassin. They'll send a thug. And the thug beats him up. And I mean, you sit there and you say, like, okay, you're werewolf in my Pathfinder game a long time ago. Yeah, sure, your brother, your Bond brother died, and the guy was the main guy that was not really main guy, but the guy who wasn't your antagonist. Yeah, he died, but it wasn't by your hand. It was by a story hand, and it was completely irrelevant to a certain point.
Kind of, but at the same time, that gave me a deep hate for one of the major characters that were in the game.
Yeah.
Which heavily influenced the way I acted. I almost killed one of your NPCs that one of the PCs was in love with over him killing the person. More incredibly dramatic
Yeah, it's more
backstory.
incredibly
Yeah.
dramatic.
Yeah,
But-
you incredibly just dramatized it all again.
But that was one of the funnest, most
start.
amazing characters I've ever run.
And then
Yeah,
Castle
but-
Grayskull got overrun by the Horde, and
Yeah, like no, but like not only do you like
Yeah, you take
have a dramatic backstory when you create your character, you'll start to add it as we play. Like I have an extreme racism for these rat people. It's like these rat people are from another dimension. I don't care. I hate them. And then you're like, I hate everyone. Like you've never showed this racism before, and you're now like you're trying to garner the hatred little merit that like gnomes have for goblins and reptilians, but you're trying to get it for everything. Like I have
Yeah.
hatred everything.
For that character, I actually did mention my family had been like acrobatic stuff like
Dramatic.
that. They would go around in a what is it called?
A caravan?
It was like a gypsy
Circus.
caravan circus. Yeah,
Traveling
circus.
circus.
Okay, it was a traveling circus, and we were attacked by, I think it was goblins or like rat people or something like that.
Oh, I was
And
just saying though.
you never said that there were different dimensions. Like I thought they were same world.
Exactly why your backstory needs to be not so like thing, because it can mess with the lore. You know, like,
I mentioned that at the beginning of your game though. I was like, this is my character's thing, and like I did give like a two paragraph description.
I also did have you guys go through like a portal. You could assume you might not be in the same world.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
goblins and rat people are two different things, man.
Yeah, but another thing is maybe you should see these characters more often as a mannequin, a blank, undescriptive form.
Yeah, it really
and
is,
then
because you apply a
Yeah.
voice, and it's a puppet. You're wielding a puppet.
You give life to this thing that is otherwise inanimate and faceless and colorless. I mean, you suddenly paint it a little bit. You give it some features. You add some hair. You put like a different kind of clothing on it, and you give it
tats.
various accessories down to armor and shields or
Down to
laser
its
guns.
nail colors and scars. Another thing about dramatic backstories, especially ones involving plot elements, there is a danger of you losing control of your character. I have learned this the hard way in the past. If you have characters that are deep emotional ties, the DM can use that against you.
Yeah.
And they will twist the knife. They will twist the knife, especially like the what's his name? He should.
Jeremiah.
Who should not be gamed?
Oh, I'm
should
sorry,
not be game.
Jeremiah.
Oh, no.
Jeremiah loves to do
Oh,
that.
you love twisting the knife. You have this like a negative con modifier, not even con.
Yeah,
not
no,
even
I
con
will
score
like
10.
Yeah,
Yeah. it's-
I will look you straight in the eyes as I do it. Like, does that hurt? Yeah. How do you like that?
No, because
We're all
like you
murdered.
get, like, oh, you have a sister. Well, it's like you're pissing me off in game, so I'm just gonna. She dies. It's like, really?
Whoa.
You're gonna do that?
Volcano, straight into the volcano.
Come
That's-
on! You can't let anyone but yourself play that character. That is something a lot of players mess up on. If you have something too in depth and you can't, hold on to all
It's
the
too rigid and too stiff, and it will shatter.
what tangled webs we weave. It's like
Well, I actually have a perfect example of that with the werewolf that I had, not the Pathfinder, but the world of darkness. For instance, he spent his entire life collecting and stealing different forms of artwork, and then
Got blown
you,
up.
Daryl, blew all of it up.
Well, actually, that was John's fault because he managed to cause a hunter to track
hey,
him.
not my fault. It
Yeah,
was
you did. You changed in the middle of a street and you killed a guy.
I didn't change another street. I was in I ducked in the alleyway of a warehouse.
Doesn't matter.
The point is, a security camera saw me. That's what it was. That's why they didn't go demented, because normally if a human being sees them, they have.
Yeah, well, then you were hunted, but then
delirium.
your action caused him to have his dramatic backstory even more dramatic.
Yeah, and that's why my character had a complete
It's all your fault.
flip of
It was
personality.
the
It's-
dice's fault. To be fair, it's the dice's fault.
Like-
Still yours.
But yeah, no, my character went from pacifist, I don't like hurting people, to, oh my god, I just lost my entire life's work because of somebody. I'm going to murder them.
Oh no, it didn't hit crazy stairs. Did it?
Oh, it's like the military dude who comes back and like he has a family. So like one of the family members is kidnapped, and then he goes crazy and like murders people.
Where's my daughter?
If you really wanted to be realistic with like military and like coming back from like wartime, they'd like avoid their kids. But,
All right. Well, anyways, the closing thoughts of this whole thing, the whole crazy thing about going on before we start going to like psychoanalyzing the military
Or bad movies.
or bad movies or tropes and incredibly dramatic backstories up the wazoo. We're gonna have to wrap this one out. Final thoughts about grilling him. Go ahead and do your last hate.
All right, like I said, a couple dramatic backstories, fine, but limitations. Like keep it like I said, 2 paragraphs. I'm addressing this to Kylie and anybody out there who also does this. Really save your GM some headaches and keep it simple.
I'll do the next hate, and then you can have final word. When you make a character, don't let anyone have something they can use against you. Don't ever create.
Kryptonite.
Yeah, do not have a kryptonite. Don't make your characters not emotional or psychological kryptonite. Don't do it. Just a saying.
Yeah. My main final thoughts on this one. Don't make such a rigid, stiff thing. As I said before, it will shatter and crack, and your character will fall apart, and there's gonna be nothing you can do about it. And then you're gonna sit there and you go on the crazy train, and then we kill you again
And again.
and again. Okay. And now your final defense about yourself.
Okay.
Your very feeble defense.
To everybody out there who creates crazy backstories, long-winded stuff like that, you can shorten them down a bit. That is true. You don't need all the flavor in there, because if you throw all sorts of spices into a pile, you're going to get something that is just utterly disgusting.
Well, you
But
carry it straight, but
But my final say on it is every person is different in their own way before they get to a certain point. Everybody has friends, enemies, events that happen in their life, and it's nice if you throw them in there a little bit. But yeah, everybody here is right in the most part where I need to cut it down a little bit.
Just presume that it happened.
To quote Counter-Strike, terrorists win.
Yes. Okay. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this one. Like, comment, and subscribe below. If you have any questions that you want us or have us talk about, you can send it in our comments, or you can send them at our Gmail at justrollitalready@gmail.com. Anyways, I'm Daryl.
I'm Jeremiah.
I'm Kyle.
And I'm the rules lair everyone loves, John.